You ever have one of those days where you're just minding your own business, thinking life's finally settling into something predictable, and then boom, everything flips upside down? That was my Saturday in Redstone, Arizona, a dusty little town where the sun hits so hard it feels like it's trying to pin you to the pavement. My name's Sarah Kane, and this is the story of how I went from grabbing groceries to staring down a gun barrel, getting tangled up with a motorcycle club, and uncovering a truth that shook this whole damn town. I was 35, ex-Army medic, 10 years in, most of it spent patching up soldiers in places where the air smelled like cordite and fear. I'd seen too many things, and when I got out 3 years ago, I thought I could leave that life behind, trade it for something quieter, maybe even boring. Redstone was supposed to be that place, a sleepy town with old brick storefronts and folks who knew each other's business a little too well. I was outside Harper's Market that day, my canvas tote heavy with apples and canned soup, the kind of stuff you grab when you're not sure what you're cooking but know you need to eat. The heat was brutal, pressing against my skin, and I was checking my phone, squinting against the glare, when I saw a flash of metal between two parked cars, quick and wrong, like a snake's tongue flicking out of the shadows. My brain kicked into gear before I could think, old instincts from too many nights scanning for threats in the desert. I turned my head, and there he was, a big guy in a leather vest, standing outside Rosie's Diner, coffee in hand, laughing with a couple of buddies. The patch on his back screamed Iron Reapers, the local motorcycle club, and from the extra patches, I figured he was someone important, maybe their president. I didn't know him, didn't need to. What I knew was the guy in the shadows, crouched low, raising a pistol with a suppressor screwed on tight. Time slowed down, the way it does when your body's already moving before your mind catches up. I dropped my groceries, apples rolling everywhere, bouncing off the curb, and I ran, 3 hard strides, boots pounding pavement. I hit the big guy square in the chest, shoving him sideways so hard he stumbled into the diner's wall. "Gun!" I yelled, my voice slicing through the chatter of the afternoon crowd. The shot came a split second later, a sharp crack that didn't sound like much, but felt like a freight train when it slammed into my shoulder. Pain exploded, hot and bright, spinning me half around, but I stayed on my feet, pressing my hand against the wound, blood warm and sticky between my fingers. The street went nuts, people screaming, diving for cover, chairs scraping as folks ducked under tables. I caught a glimpse of the shooter, medium build, black cap, bolting down an alley between the feed store and the old bank. The guy I'd pushed was staring at me, sprawled against the wall, his face cycling through shock, confusion, and something like realization. His buddies were already moving, one chasing the shooter, the other stepping in front of him, scanning for more threats, their movements tight, professional, like they'd done this before. "Stay down," I told him, my voice steady despite the fire in my shoulder. Sirens were already wailing in the distance, and I could feel my vision starting to blur, adrenaline fading, pain taking over. But I stayed upright, hands still on the wound, tracking the chaos like I was back in a war zone. The guy I'd saved stepped forward, older than I'd first thought, maybe late 50s, with silver in his hair and a scar cutting through his beard near his left eye. His eyes were ice blue, sharp, like he was sizing me up and seeing more than I wanted him to. "You knew it was coming," he said, not asking, just stating it, like he was trying to figure out how I'd clocked the threat. "Saw the reflection barrel shine," I said, short and clipped, shock creeping in. "Been worse." That was a lie, but it sounded good. He pressed his vest against my wound, gentle for a guy who looked like he could bench a Harley. "Name's Tom Caldwell," he said, "and it looks like I owe you my life." I managed a half smile, pain making my head swim. "Sarah Kane. Call it a reflex." The paramedics showed up then, and as they loaded me into the ambulance, I caught one last look at Tom, standing tall, surrounded by his crew, his voice cutting through the noise. "Find him," he said, cold and final. "Whatever it takes." The hospital was all fluorescent lights and antiseptic smell, the kind of place that makes you feel like you're already half dead. The bullet had gone clean through my shoulder, messy but not fatal. The doc, some kid fresh out of residency, kept pushing painkillers, but I wasn't having it. "No opioids," I said, my voice flat. "Ibuprofen max strength, that's it." He looked at my chart, Army medic, 3 tours, Iraq and Afghanistan, and got it. Too many of us had seen what pills could do, how they could take a soldier who survived a war and turn them into a ghost. He backed off, offered a referral to a pain specialist who worked with vets, non-narcotic stuff. I nodded, grateful he didn't push. While they patched me up, my mind kept replaying the street, the glint, the shot, the way Tom's eyes locked onto mine like he knew me from somewhere. I'd been out of the army 3 years, bouncing between temp jobs, trying to figure out what civilian life was supposed to be. Redstone was my latest stop, a place to lay low, work on my leather projects, belts, bags, stuff I could lose myself in, stitching away the memories that wouldn't stay buried. My dad, Jack Kane, was the only thing tethering me here, a retired Army sergeant who'd settled in Redstone after his own wars. He was 76, stubborn as hell, living alone in a little house across town, and when the hospital called him, I knew he'd be pacing, trying not to let the worry show. A cop showed up later, Officer Dan Walsh, mid-30s, ex-Marine, the kind of guy who stood like he was still waiting for orders. He wanted my statement, and I gave it to him straight: time, place, the shooter's description, the whole thing, like I was debriefing after a mission. "You spotted the gun before he fired," he said, scribbling in his notebook. "How?" I shrugged, wincing as it pulled my stitches. "Habit. Saw the reflection, didn't fit the scene. You know how it is." He nodded. 2 tours in Afghanistan. He told me, and we shared that look, the one that says you've both seen things you can't unsee. Then he dropped a bomb. "The guy you saved, Tom Caldwell? He's the president of the Iron Reapers. Not exactly a choir boy." I kept my face neutral. Didn't check his rap sheet before I pushed him out of the way. Dan's mouth twitched, almost a smile. "Fair. Just a heads up, this might not be over. The shooter's likely tied to the Copper Vipers, a new club stirring up trouble. Been bad blood with the Reapers for a while." I didn't say much after that, just nodded, but my mind was already turning. I'd stumbled into something bigger than a random shooting, something tied to drugs, territory, maybe more. When Dan left, I heard motorcycles outside, a low rumble that said the Reapers weren't done with me yet. From the hospital window, I saw the maybe a dozen Harleys, lined up like soldiers, Tom at the center, talking down a nurse who was probably complaining about the noise. No yelling, no threats, just that quiet authority that made people listen. When I signed my discharge papers, the nurse came back, looking flustered. "You've got visitors," she said. "A Mr. Caldwell insists on seeing you." I told her to let him in, just him. Tom walked in, filling the room without trying, carrying a bouquet of desert wildflowers that looked comically out of place in his rough hands. "Figured these suited you better than roses," he said, setting them down. No small talk, straight to it, like he knew I didn't have the patience for fluff. "Thanks," I said, nodding to a chair. "You didn't have to come." He sat, moving careful, like his body remembered old injuries. "Yeah, I did. Most folks would have ducked and run. You didn't." I shrugged, biting back a wince. "Not how I'm built. Army medic, 3 tours. You move toward the danger, not away." He nodded, like he'd already figured that out. "Thought so. You move like you've been in the shit." We sat there a minute, sizing each other up, not uncomfortable, just assessing. Then I broke the silence. "The shooter. You know who he is?" Tom's jaw tightened. "Working on it. Copper Vipers have been pushing into our turf, running drugs, fentanyl, the bad stuff. We don't touch that poison, but they don't care who they sell to. Kids, vets, doesn't matter." He slid a card across the table, just a phone number, no name. "You need anything, you call. Day or night. Reapers take care of their own, and after today, that includes you." I didn't touch the card, not yet. "I didn't do it for your club, Tom." He smirked, just a little. "I know. That's why it matters." He stood, pausing at the door. "Got a guy outside, Jake, ex-Ranger. He'll get you home safe. Until we find the shooter, you're not out of the woods." I didn't argue. Truth was, I'd felt that itch since the shooting, the one that says you're being watched. Jake rode me home on his Harley, the kind of bike that vibrates through your bones, the town slipping by in the late afternoon light. Redstone's a weird mix, old diners next to chain stores, churches dwarfed by billboards, a place where small-town America butts up against the modern world and sometimes gets bruised. My house was a rental, nothing fancy, a 1-story with a carport and a yard I kept tidy but plain. Inside, I peeled off my bloody shirt, checked the bandaged and angry, but holding and popped some ibuprofen. My reflection in the bathroom mirror wasn't the kid who'd joined the army at 19, running from a dead-end town in Ohio. That girl was gone, replaced by someone with harder edges, eyes that didn't miss much, and a mouth that forgot how to smile easy. My phone kept buzzing Dad, worried sick, probably ready to storm the hospital himself. "I'm fine," I said when I finally called him back. "Through and through, shoulder, no big damage." He didn't buy the casual act, but he didn't push either. "What happened?" he asked, his voice all business, like he was still debriefing his platoon. I gave him the short version, leaving out the Reapers. Dad had opinions about bikers, especially the kind with rap sheets. "You coming by tomorrow?" I asked, steering him off the topic. "Planned on it," he said. "Need to see you're still in one piece." We traded our usual banter, Semper Fi, kid. Semper Fi, old man. And I hung up, feeling a little steadier. That night, a deputy stopped by, Sarah Miller, young, sharp, all business in her sheriff's uniform. "Sheriff Dawson sent me to check on you," she said, handing me her card. "We're upping patrols around here after what happened." She pulled up a file on her tablet, giving me the rundown. The Copper Vipers were new in town, maybe 18 months, pushing hard against the Reapers, who'd been here since the 80s. Drugs, intimidation, territory disputes. The Vipers played dirty, selling fentanyl to anyone with cash, no questions asked. The Reapers, for all their rough edges, had rules. No dealing to kids, no hard stuff like fentanyl. "You saved Tom Caldwell," she said, watching me close. "He's old school, believes in debts and honor. You're on his radar now, for better or worse." I nodded, not thrilled about being in the middle of a biker war, but not surprised either. I'd made my choice when I ran toward that gun. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Dreams crept in, Zan, blood, the sound of medevac choppers, telling kids younger than me they'd make it when I wasn't sure. I woke up sweating, the ghost of gunpowder in my nose, and got through Sunday morning slow, every move a reminder of the hole in my shoulder. The news was already buzzing, local stations calling me the mystery woman who saved a biker. My phone chimed with a text from an unknown number, "Coming by at 11. Need to talk. TC. Tom Caldwell, right on time." I spent the next hour tidying my place, setting up my leather workbench to keep my hands busy. The familiar rhythm of cutting and stitching was the only thing that ever quieted my head. Tom showed up at 11 sharp, his Harley's rumble announcing him before he knocked. He was alone, no entourage, just him in a clean shirt and his Reaper vest, patches telling a story I couldn't quite read. "Sarah," he said, taking off his sunglasses, those blue eyes pinning me again. Shoulder holding up? "Functional," I said, pouring him coffee with my good hand. He glanced at my workbench, the half-finished holster and belts laid out like a surgical tray. "Nice setup," he said. "Keeps the noise down." I nodded, surprised he got it static in your head that never shuts up after you've seen combat. "Helps," I said. He set an envelope on the counter. "Medical bills add up. Reapers want to cover what your insurance doesn't." I didn't touch it. "Not necessary." He didn't budge. "It is to us." Then he dropped the real reason he was there. "We know who shot at me. Ryan Holt, ex-Marine, 2 tours in Afghanistan. Been with the Vipers 6 months. The name hit me like a punch. "I know him," I said, the memory sharp. "Treated him in Kandahar, 2011. Shrapnel wounds, bad ones. He was out of it most of the time." Tom's eyes narrowed. "He remembered you. That's why you're still in danger." My stomach twisted. This wasn't random. Holt targeting Tom. Me being there, it was too neat, too personal. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Protection," he said. "We can watch your place, make sure Holt or his buddies don't come for you." I shook my head. I've had enough eyes on me in my life. I'll take my chances. He didn't push, just handed me a small device, like a key fob. Panic button. Signals our clubhouse and Jake's phone. 3-minute response time. I took it, slipping it into my pocket. "Thanks." Before he could say more, there was another knock. Through the peephole, I saw Sheriff John Dawson, tall, graying, hat in hand like he'd stepped out of a Western. "Sarah Kane," he said when I opened the door. "Hope I'm not interrupting." Tom appeared behind me, and the two men exchanged a look. Old rivals, not enemies, but not friends either. "John," Tom said. "Figured you'd show up." Dawson stepped inside, and the air shifted, like 2 big dogs circling each other. "Came to update you," Dawson said to me, keeping Tom in his peripheral. "But I'm guessing the Reapers are running their own investigation." Tom shrugged. "Just looking out for someone who took a bullet for me." Dawson laid it out. "Ryan Holt, 33, dishonorably discharged for assaulting an officer, now a Viper. The Vipers wanted to push fentanyl through Redstone, and the Reapers were in their way. Holt targeted me to send a message, Tom said. They're moving product through a guy named Victor Lane, regional VP for a pharmaceutical outfit, and a VA counselor, Mike Reed. My jaw tightened. Reed. I'd met him at the VA, always too smooth, too quick to push pills on vets who just needed someone to listen. Why Redstone? I asked. Dawson and Tom exchanged a glance, and I knew there was more to this than drugs. There's history here, Dawson said, and it goes back further than you'd think. That's when my dad got involved. He called me later that day, voice tight. Get over here, Sarah. Dawson's here, and Tom's coming. We've got a problem. 20 minutes later, I was at Dad's place, a neat little ranch house that screamed retired military. Dawson's unmarked sedan was in the drive, and Tom pulled up on his bike just as I did. Inside, Dad had a folder open on the kitchen table, old military records from 1991, Desert Storm. He pointed to a photo of him, young, standing with a recon team, Tom among them, and another face I didn't know but felt familiar. That's Eric Slade, Dad said. Now goes by Cobra, runs the Copper Vipers. He was our intel officer in Kuwait. Sold us out to the Iraqis, got 3 of our guys killed. Tom's voice was low, bitter. We could never prove it, but we knew. He walked away clean, built a new life. Now he's here, in Redstone, targeting the guys who were there that day. It hit me hard. Cobra wasn't just running drugs, she was erasing his past, taking out the men who could expose him. Dad, Tom, the others on that mission, they were all in Redstone, and Cobra had chosen this town to bury his secrets. He's using the Vipers to distribute fentanyl, Tom said, targeting vets, especially. It's personal for him. Dawson nodded, looking tired. My department's compromised. Evidence from last night's surveillance photos of Cobra, Lane, Reed, the drugs, it's gone. Someone inside's feeding Cobra info. The room went quiet, the weight of it settling over us. This wasn't just a biker feud. It was a war, one that had started 30 years ago in a desert half a world away. We've got 48 hours, Dawson said. That's how long I can stall before I have to move officially. After that, it's out of my hands. Dad spoke up, his voice like steel. These are my brothers. I'm not letting Cobra pick them off. I looked at him, then at Tom, and made my choice. I'm in. We take the fight to him not as Reapers, not as cops, but as vets protecting our own. It was dangerous, outside the law, but I'd seen too many good people die waiting for justice to play by the rules. That night, we planned. Dad rounded up the surviving vets from that Kuwait mission, 12 men, grizzled, some broken by time, but still ready to fight. Tom's Reapers provided muscle and intel, and I was tasked with hitting Cobra's private compound, a fancy ranch house in the foothills where he kept his secrets. We knew he had files, proof of his betrayal, financial records, maybe even a journal. If we could get those to Dawson, we could end this clean. If not, well, we'd cross that bridge when we got there. At midnight, I was with Jake and 2 of Dad's old squad, creeping through the scrub toward Cobra's place. It looked like a retiree's dream big house, fancy landscaping, but the cameras and motion sensors screamed paranoia. One of the vets, an ex-EOD guy, cut the power to the security system, and we slipped inside. The place was all money crystal decanters, art that cost more than my rent, but it felt cold, like a man trying to buy his way out of his past. We found the office, a mahogany setup straight out of a CEO's wet dream, and Jake spotted a floor safe under a rug. 5 minutes, the EOD guy said, pulling out his tools. 4 minutes later, the safe opened, and there it was, files, photos, a journal in Cobra's handwriting, laying out his betrayal in Kuwait, the payoffs, the cover-up. It was everything we needed. Then we heard engines, multiple vehicles, coming fast. Company, Jake whispered, peeking through the curtains. Cobra's SUV, flanked by Vipers. Someone had tipped him off again. Take the evidence, I told Jake. Get it to Dawson. We'll cover you. He hesitated, but I wasn't asking. Go. He slipped out the side, and we took positions, me and the 2 vets, ready for whatever came through that door. Cobra burst in, big, mean, nothing like the soldier in Dad's old photos. His eyes were cold, predatory, and when he saw me, he grinned, like he'd been waiting for this. Kane's daughter, huh? Should have shot you on Main Street. I kept my gun steady, my voice calm. Eric Slade. Or do you prefer Cobra? Trader works, too. His face twisted, rage and fear mixing together. You don't know what you're messing with, girl. I know exactly what, I said. A guy who sold out his own men, who's been running from that truth for 30 years. It's over, Slade. We've got your files, your journal. Dawson's got it all now. He lunged for his gun, and I didn't hesitate. One shot, clean, through his shoulder, same place he'd hit me. He staggered back, clutching the wound, and for a second, I saw the fear in his eyes, the realization that he'd lost. Poetic, huh? I said, watching him slump into a chair. His men froze, the fight draining out of them as sirens started closing in. Jake texted, package delivered. Dawson's moving. It was done. 6 months later, I'm standing in the Redstone sun, watching a crowd gather outside what used to be the Vipers Clubhouse. It's the grand opening of the Redstone Veterans Center now, a place for recovery, support, a second chance for the people Cobra tried to destroy. His operations gone, most of his guys flipped, spilling everything to avoid hard time. Cobra's in a federal pen, facing charges from treason to murder. The evidence we got that night cracked it all open, and Dawson's cleaned house in his department, rooting out the leaks. Dad's up at the podium, giving a speech with Dawson beside him, talking about honor, about standing for those who can't. Tom's here too, his reapers scattered through the crowd, a lot of them vets themselves. Hell of a turnout, he says, sidling up. Better than I hoped. I reply. I'm starting as medical director here next month, putting my training to work again, helping vets like me find their way back. It's not the Army, but its purpose, and I hadn't realized how much I'd missed that. As Dad speaks, I catch his eye, and we share a look that says more than words ever could. That day on Main Street, I didn't just save Tom. I found my place again, my fight, my people. Cobra thought he could bury his past, but he didn't count on us vets, bikers, a sheriff with a conscience coming together to stop him. Some debts, like the ones we carry for each other, don't get repaid. They get passed forward, linking us across years, wars, and choices we never thought we'd make. So what do you think? Was it worth stepping into the fire to protect a stranger, to take down a guy like Cobra? Or should I have stayed out of it, let the law handle it, even if it meant more lives lost? Drop a comment. Tell me where you stand. What would you do if you saw that glint of metal, that moment where everything changes? Let's talk about it.